Now we've seen that we can create a virtual machine that acts as our base image. But how do we actually define which pieces of hardware the final image will support? Well, that's where target systems come into play. If you look at the target systems form, you can see it's the same layout as before. We have the list of existing items. So what's a target system? Well, simply put, a target system is a set of drivers that supports a particular range of hardware. That range can be as granular as you like. We can have a target system that supports a single model, for instance the HP TouchSmart seen here. Or it can support a line of models, for instance the Dell Latitudes. Or even it could support all the hardware from a single vendor, for instance all Lenovo hardware. So let's go ahead and add a target system. So as usual, we give it a name and a description. Let's try and build up a target system pack that supports a range of notebooks from Acer. So let's move on to the Drivers and Utilities tab. You can see we have them categorized here. Let's try adding some chipset drivers. Now I'm going to press the Add button, and the tool asks me for a folder. Well, what it's looking for in this folder are INF files. It will then find those INF files and parse the information in them to determine which drivers to add. So I've been to the Acer website and I've downloaded some chipset drivers. So I'm going to browse to that and hit select. And you can see that the tool has found 5 drivers for us. So let's go in and see what information it's actually extracted. Well, you can see that we've found all the matching device IDs. So these are the IDs of the pieces of hardware that this driver actually supports. Now to work this information out manually would be tedious and error prone, so the tool's saving you quite a lot of time here. So I can carry on in this manner. I can go to the video category, hit add again, find the video drivers that I've downloaded from the Acer website, and you can see we've found 2 drivers. And if we have a look at them, again we've found the matching device IDs. Build out my target system for Acer notebooks. For the moment, I'll just hit save. Now we saw earlier when we created the virtual machine as our base image that we could connect to that virtual machine and mount an ISO and install applications that way. But what if you wanted to be a bit more selective about which applications got installed? Well, the tool has the idea of an application library, which allows us to build up a list of applications which we can then conditionally install onto the final image. So let's have a look at that. So if we go to Apps and Scripts, you can see it's the usual layout with a list of all the already defined applications. So let's see how we add an application. If we hit Add, the Edit page comes up. As usual, we give it a name. I'm going to install a tool called Orca, which allows me to manipulate MSIs. So if I hit the Browse button and I browse to the executable of the setup file, what the tool also needs is the actual command line we're going to execute to install that application. And I hit Save. Now we saw earlier that you could connect to the virtual machine and customize the operating system that way. However, there are classes of customizations that you wouldn't want to do in the base image, or that you might find tedious to do manually. So the tool offers a wide range of automation options, and we call these recipes. A recipe is just a grouping of customizations that will be made when the final image is applied to the hardware. So let's have a look and see what sort of customizations we can do. As usual, we give the item a name. So let's suppose we're going to put together a group of settings for the marketing department. If we move on to System Properties, then we can start to see the customizations that are available. So we can generate a name for the computer. Now we can choose to keep the default value and let Windows generate a name. Or we can supply our own computer naming scheme. Now notice that we have a number of placeholders. these will be replaced with their actual value when the image is applied to target hardware, for instance serial number or asset tag. We also have the ability to join a computer to a workgroup or a domain. We also have the ability to customize the behavior of Windows on failure, to customize how it logs that information. Moving on to network and internet, then we can change the behavior of the default web browser. In all likelihood, you will be using DHCP to acquire an IP address, but if you're not, then we can supply an IP configuration. We have the ability to map drives and also add network printers. We can customize the default power scheme. We can choose which Windows features are available. So in this case, I'm going to decide to install the web server. I'm going to install IIS, so I just drag that component over there. We can change some security settings. For instance, we can add members to the local admin group. We can also choose to modify the admin password here, or change the behavior of the firewall and modify UAC. And finally, we have access to the Windows Run and Run Once tasks that can be scheduled to run when Windows launches. So we hit save. And there's our new recipe. Now let's review what we've seen thus far. We've seen that we can generate a virtual machine to act as our base image. We've seen target systems, which are sets of drivers that support particular ranges of hardware. We've seen that we can have a library of apps and scripts. And just now we've seen recipes, which are groupings of automation options. Now those four areas are all independent. So what we're going to look at now is how we bring those four areas together to form the final gold image, and that's where deployments come in. So if we look at the Deployments tab, you can see it's this usual layout. Let's see what we have to do to add a deployment. As usual, we give it a name. Moving on to the Images tab, we select the base image we built earlier, and onto Target Systems, where we're going to decide which target systems this final deployment will support. So let's take our Acer Notebooks target system and embed it in the image by dragging it across like that. Moving on to apps and scripts. Now here we see the conditional installation of applications we talked about earlier. Now, I may want to install Microsoft Word on all systems, so I drag Word across like that. Whereas I may only want to install development tools on my desktops, so I drag Visual Studio across like that. If we move on to recipes, we take the marketing recipe we built earlier and drag that across. So if I hit save, there's our new deployment. Notice that the build button is active, so I'll hit that and the system will now build the final image for us. So if we skip ahead now, the image capture has completed and the tool is copying the final image to our repository, and the task completes successfully. If I now bring up Windows Explorer, I'll show you the final image, and there it is there. So let's review what we've seen. We've seen that we can create a virtual base image and that we can connect to that image and customize it, all from within the confines of the tool. We've seen the concept of target systems, and these were sets of drivers that support a range of hardware. We've seen that we have an application library and that we can take some of those applications and conditionally install them onto the end hardware. And we've also seen that we have a wide variety of automation options that can eliminate the need for a lot of manual effort. And finally we saw that we can take those four areas and bring them together for the final deployment. So that concludes this demo of ImageMagic. I hope you've enjoyed it. Please visit us at our website if you want to find out more. And thank you for watching.